I'm contemplating something, and wait a minute. Yeah. So I'm contemplating something, and for some reason, I'm wanting to contemplate it out loud. And if you'll excuse me, I won't stare at my image, my own image at the screen, and stare away, because I'm realizing how damaging that is for my eyes, that screen stare. My eyes are pretty tired after a long day work with a computer, and that's why. So there's been a contemplation going on in me for a while now about all this spiritual mumbo jumbo in my life, all this inner quest, and some insights coming in very naturally. It couldn't come in anywhere else because they're really an accumulation of a long 30-year process. And it's connected. It has to do with what's it all about. This what am I looking for? Why is it this humongous exploration of teachers, of teachings, experimenting through my own body-mind complex, with suggestions, with practices that's been going on for the last 30 years. And I think with all that accumulation and some positive fruits coming, and a lot of discernment rising naturally from meeting so many thinkers and thought ways of thought and systems, and some discernment coming about what does anyone know? Does anyone know anything here? And especially, what does it have to do with me? Why am I interested in all this? What do all those spirituality teachers really have to do with my own life? With what? And a lot of the exploration, a lot of the observation that's going on is, what was I looking for from the beginning, from the get-go, as they say? When I came in contact with those kind of teachings, and what did I eventually get from it? What am I getting? And what can truly be expected, and what I as an individual can expect, can actually realistically expect to get from this kind of exploration. And I think I was a different person when I started. My awareness today, my level of self-attunement, my level of self-knowledge, just knowing this body-mind complex, this system, has tremendously changed during the years. And just the actual friction of the words, the ideas of wise, intelligent individuals, different angles, different perspectives, taking them in, trying them out for size, and has by itself made me a more aware, more knowledgeable person. Because it's naturally when you engage with wisdom, when you engage with intelligence, you're bound to somehow, some of this is bound to rub off on you during the process. So does self-awareness beneficial? Well, I think in some stages it was really, really challenging. Self-awareness, doubting everything, looking at everything in life, including the meaning of it, including who I am and what I'm supposed to do here and what it's all about. Opening all that can of worms, so to speak, up for inspection in me while engaging with ideas of others it has its challenges because you get really opened up, you get to meet your very deepest doubts, and it's a vulnerable place to be in. But then I had to do it because I was really, really deeply emotionally suffering. And I had a kind of socially challenged mind, and I couldn't relate to simple social engagement, and I related much more easily to wisdom and to high thought. It felt much more accessible to me, so it actually made me feel less alone in my suffering. And a lot of what spiritual teachers talk about is suffering and how to, so to speak, heal from it, how, so to speak, to go beyond it, how to stop it. Or at least it sounds like many of them talk about that, and that's basically what they're trying to sell. So I think it was the only way for me to find like some kind of something to hang on to, because I didn't have the capacity to be very sociable or very good at intimate connection. And I didn't have around me a family that could actually help me. Even if I were more open, I don't think there was anyone there to really guide me. I actually think my parents were emotionally challenged themselves. God bless them. I love them. And so that's a preface about the beginning, being another person totally. And today I can see many places where I was very limited, much more limited than today, and I'm still very limited in many ways. I can see place where I was misguided. I can see many places where I'm just getting awake about how much apathy and despair was ingrained in me and still is very present in my deeper layers. And I was experiencing a lot of emotional pain, which I couldn't explain. And it's still challenging today to explain it. I still experience it from time to time, although less intensely. So this is where I came from, and this is the way I found to search for a solution. And all along the years, when I came across all kinds of teachers or actually students, fellow students that talked about, I want to go and get enlightened. I want to transcend normal reality and realize my true self, or teachers that talked about it. I quite often had the thought, but for me, it's not like that. I had the sincere observation that for me, I'm just looking for a way to be happy, to be more happy. And that suffering is the engine of my search. And that is it's very simple suffering. It's just suffering. I could feel it. Yeah, I could feel like the emotional pain. And nevertheless, when I say when you, I mean when but I still have a pull to express like that. When you come across teaching or a teacher and they're very charismatic, and I do have a kind of spiritual attraction in me, a spiritual magnet. And I do tend to get very inspired by spiritual teachings and teachings of truth in general. It doesn't have to be spiritual. A lot of the time it could be borderline spiritual, like, for example, human design, which grabbed me very deeply for a very long time. I have a pull for truth, and when I find a teacher which is intelligent and inspiring and very bright, and I resonate with their teaching and with their character, then I tend to doubt myself, and I tend to take on a lot of what that person say just for the sake of trying it on. And a lot of the teachers will talk about life from their own perspective. And that's the point of all this contemplation here today. Those teachers, whichever teacher it may be, will talk about the path or being a human from their own perspective. And they have a different life and a different experience altogether from me, from this storyline that is me. And they would usually set up a goal for self-exploration that is very, well, usually it's very distinct, it's very clear. And a lot of them talk about enlightenment. And then a lot of the time they start to debunk what isn't enlightenment and get you all confused, but they still talk about enlightenment. And even if they don't talk about enlightenment, they will talk about other goals, other objectives of that whole journey that they're trying to take you with them on. Because when you have a spiritual teacher, it's actually, it's an individual, it's very bright, and he has his own or her own opinions about what life is and what's worthwhile and what will take you on a positive or worthwhile journey, and how to go about that journey. And they usually are inviting you or telling you, this depends on how bossy they are, but they're inviting you on this journey with them. And you get a bit attached and you get a bit dependent, and you start trying to see the world through their eyes. And I went through that process for tens of times because that's the way I am. That's my gift and that's my curse. I just do that. And but more and more, the more time went on, and I went through all those processes and all those journeys and went off them, then I gained, what I gained was first some intelligence, as I said, because when you get to look at life from so many different angles and through the eyes of so many different thinkers, something in you develops. It's a kind of intellectual discernment. It's a kind of, I don't know how to say it in English, but it's a kind of substance that is purified and an accumulation of truth. Because when you hear so many words from so many people, you also hear a lot of repetitive things, and you also get to take on for size many of those truths, and you get a sense of what is really useful for you and what is really true and what is problematic or doubt, given to doubt, and what is more objective and what is more subjective, what is true for the human being as a whole to say about humans, and what is more the personal opinion of that specific teacher. So that's a kind of a mental discernment that that gets verified through this exploration. And you also, what you also get, I said it before, but I say it again, it's also what you get is experimental experience. You just get experience. You just get a lot of experiences with yourself and with what's possible to experience in this body mind that is you. And that is, at least that's what happened for me. I fell many times. I had quite many challenges, but eventually I gained a lot of experience, and gradually that experience became more important than any system or any way of thinking or any teacher, because that experience that was accumulating in me, it became like a mass of wisdom that nobody can take away from me, because experience is like that. I at least can change my way of thinking again and again. But experience is something else. Experience is like, it feels solid. It's something you can lean against. It's something that, well, you can change the way you think about your experience in multiple ways, but you can't change the actual what happened to you, what you felt. And there's something about experience that's really solid and really dependable. And it becomes the experience of knowing yourself, knowing this life, as Sadhguru says. Sadhguru, a very known spiritual teacher, says that I know only one thing, and it is this life. He points to himself. And he studied this life, his life, from head to toe, in all directions. It just feels he knows it himself, and that's all he knows. And I love that saying, because it's similar, I think, to what I'm pointing to here, which is with time, with self-exploration, with courageous self-inquiry and experimenting and trying on different things, just different things, this attitude and this meditation and this way of communicating and that way of practicing. And you just accumulate a lot of knowledge about yourself. And it's not brain knowledge, it's not mental knowledge so much as experimental knowledge. And that became more important than any way of thought, gradually. And the tendency to get dependent on a specific teacher, and also the need for a specific teacher to be right, the most right for me, that need, because I was looking at it, didn't know who's right, because they all have their different ways of weighing life. They have their own scale, and they weigh life differently on their scale. So I didn't know which scale is more accurate, and I didn't know how to weigh life myself. But that need to have one specific system be right, I feel it diminishing lately. And with that diminishment, what's happening is I'm realizing how I hung on to certain headlines or goals that spiritual teachers or teachers of self-development gave me as the headline of my process. Because really, as I said, during those times when I got really attached to this or that teacher, I tried on also their premise of what this life is supposed to be about. It's about self-exploration. It's about knowing who I am. A lot of the teachers talk about the question, who am I? And I tried this question for science, and I got to realize some things about myself, which were very profound and very revolutionary for my being, for my personality. And I got shook up by those questions of who am I? And I tried them because spiritual teachers told me to ask this, and I did. And then, what can I say? You kind of relax, and you start. Well, for me, right now, I'm in a place where I can see how I took on those objectives of other teachers. I'm not saying I'm sorry for anything I explored. I can't be, because it's a part of me now. It's part of my experience, which I can lean on. But then I'm not so keen anymore to give any teacher the right to tell me what my process is about. And today, I'm letting go a lot of the premise that my process has anything to do with a state called enlightenment. I do think of my original goal of being happy. It's still present. I'm still sincere about wanting to feel good all the time. And I feel it's still a motivation that's there. But I do feel some kind of maturity in me that I understand that I understand this goal differently from what I set out to in the beginning, because I understand the bigger picture a bit, and I understand, it's hard to explain, but there's a kind of process that doesn't depend on me, and doesn't depend on this part in me that just wants to be happy. And it's bigger than this part in me, which I used to call me, and still feels like me sometimes, a lot of the time. It's not a very mature part. It just wants to be happy, to feel good, and it's okay. It has its place to want to feel happy. It's natural. I see it as natural, but I understand through my experience again that that might not be what life is about. That if I were, quite simply put, if I were so happy so much of the time, I wouldn't grow, I wouldn't evolve, I wouldn't develop. There's a kind of experience that friction or strife does bring us to grow, to mature, and an overall experience that is much deeper, much more interesting experience of happiness than just having everything the way I want it to be and just being happy just because. And there's a kind of appreciation to the process itself. There's a kind of love, actually, a kind of, it's an enjoyment. It's in a kind of, it's not very pleasant all of the time. I don't want you to get this wrong. I don't want to mislead by my words, but it is like an appreciation, like for a work of art, like how human evolution uses the material of suffering, of conflict, in a very in a way that can be said to be very aesthetic eventually, because it's like a flower coming out of a seed. Like there's a certain struggle between the seed becoming the flower, and the seed doesn't know it's gonna be a flower, and the seed maybe feels torn apart when the flower emerges, but eventually the same awareness or consciousness that was in the seed is in the flower, and eventually the flower can look at itself and say, whoa, this is what it was meant to be, and it was so difficult. I didn't know what's going on, and it was all for this. So maybe it's worth it. I don't know, but maybe it's worth it because, wow. So that's the kind of static, like something that recognizes the beauty of the product of self exploration through suffering. There's something that recognizes it, and there's something that, not pride, but it's like understanding. An understanding about its value. And there's also an enjoyment of embodying a different state of, a different level of understanding of intelligence, of development. There's pure joy in it, and especially also in hindsight, looking backwards and the journey and understanding what, seeing your suffering from a different perspective, in hindsight and seeing where it led you and where it took you. And that's that wasn't what I was trying to talk about today. What is I wanted to say was that I still don't look at enlightenment as a beneficial goal to set for myself. I do look at, I did find a term that I find much more resonant, much more suitable to the process I've been going through so many years, and it is the goal of becoming more and more whole. And you can call it also integration. And I just see that goal as much more congruent with what I experience. You know, forget enlightenment. Who wants enlightenment? What the heck? I don't know if there is such a thing, but if there is, kind of no, I don't want it. I can't identify with that goal of being so high in my awareness that I'm totally disconnected from my human experience. What I can identify with is a will, an understanding of going with a process of becoming more and more whole, which includes the enlightened state, or the levels of awareness that are more spirit oriented, but it includes also the levels of awareness and being that are more human, which are mental and emotional and physical. And what I can see is that's what's happening to me, that all those levels I pass between them, and sometimes I'm more spiritually oriented, and sometimes I'm more exploring mental understanding, and sometimes I'm exploring more something emotional. Usually it's in a connection, and sometimes I'm exploring something more visceral and bodily. A lot of the times, and and those passages between the different levels of being that are available for human being in general serves as a path, an endless path of integration between those levels, and recalibrating and clearing the aspects which in spiritual teachings they tend to call ego, personality, but for me it's just the aspects that stand in the way or that needs to be upgraded or need to be matured for integration to get deeper. So this whole monologue that I just gave is the way that I experience my goal. And in short, I term it to be more whole, to be more integrated. And that is, for me, much rounder, much less ambitious and deluding goal to set for a human being, because you never get done with being more whole. You always can explore more of your spiritual self, but it doesn't mean that that's integrated with your body or with your emotional life. And you always have to go down again and integrate when you go up. And it doesn't just, it seems that it's something that doesn't end. And as such, it's a much more healthy goal, healthy. I think this setting of this goal is a part of the ego integration that I'm going through, that the ego set for himself, okay, I have to have a goal because I'm an ego, I'm a personal self, sense of self, and as such, I need a meaning and objective in my life, so to speak. But it feels too tense, too stressed to set myself a spiritual goals, or two spiritual goals. It stresses me out, and it feels much more not only realistic, but less demanding and less arrogant to just say, okay, I'm willing to integrate, to develop my spiritual levels of awareness, but I know I'm not going anywhere. I'm not running away from my humanity. And I'm not gonna be any better than anyone else. And that is part of my experiences, that is also part of ego integration. The ego finds a more natural place to reside that is not divorced from life. Because in the beginning, we don't want to suffer, and we don't want to be like our mother and our father and all those people that seem they don't know how to handle life. We just want to be like the teacher, like some kind of perfect person that seems so wise and so understands everything, and he seems so together. That's the point. They seem, all those teachers, when you go to be a teacher, you just have to seem, there's a disturbance here, so together that people will be attracted to you, and then you try to embody this this vibe of I want to be like that, and I'll listen to this person, and he will tell me how to get enlightened and how to get out of this shithole, which is also myself. I'm the shithole, but I don't know that. And then when you deeply start to really sincerely explore into yourself and into life, into real questions of, for me, it was that way that when I really started to explore sincerely about what do I want and what am I looking for and what's possible and what is those teachers saying and what am I really feeling when I'm practicing what they suggest. I started to meet myself, and I started to meet my emotions, and I started to realize that I can't run away from what I feel right now and right here, and what I feel in life and what I feel in relationships. And lately, I came to a place where it feels much more natural and just much better to say, okay, I guess wanting to be enlightened it doesn't resonate anymore. And it feels much more, it feels right to say that the goal is, actually, I know that if I keep being sincere with myself, what will keep happening and what has been happening is that I will get more and more integrated. I'll get more and more whole. More whole means not only into meeting all our levels of humanity, but including in our sense of self, more and more of existence, which means including our spiritual self, and also including more of the world into our sense of self. It is hard to explain, but I feel that's what's been happening. And I can say with confidence that if I keep doing what I'm doing, which is being true to myself, that will for sure, even if I, in spite of myself, that will keep happening because that's what's been happening until now, and that will probably will keep flourishing here, unless there's something that I don't know it's going to suddenly occur. And also that I have to admit that still there's in me, in some level, a place that just wants, as I said, to be happy. And I think I'm integrating that part as well by way of accepting it, that most of the time what I'm looking for is just ways to reliable ways to get a sweet experience out of this complex that I am. And I think it is. I think you can't, as I said, some of those things in life you can't anticipate. And life is bigger than our own will, personal will. And I can't control what life will bring. But still I can see that in a way, by way of getting better at experiencing a sweet experience from this who I am, this conglomeration that I am, practice does get perfect. So I do with experience get better at avoiding pitfalls, emotional, mental pitfalls. I'm getting wiser, you know? So the trick is to live long enough and get wise enough while you're healthy enough. That's the trick that I'm gifting you, especially if you're my age, and I'm approaching 50, you probably know that. And if you're not my age and you're much younger, I'm giving it to you. And I do have my health challenges, and I did have some health challenges, but I'm still healthy enough that I can get up in the morning, do my yoga, go for a walk, enjoy the trees, love the birds chirp, pet a cat, and I've learned how to just how to think the right way for this person that I am, how to eat the right way for this person, how to practice and exercise the right way for this piece of life that I am, that I do feel some kind of ability to that I didn't have as a young person, to know just how to get a sweeter experience of life out of this piece of life. And that's pretty simple, you know? It's not necessarily about well, it is. It does include the spiritual integration I went through, and I can't take it out of this whole of being happy, living a sweet life. But and it doesn't mean that I don't have challenging days or challenging hours or minutes and really feel challenged. But I've learned through self-exploration, really practicing tools that gave me a lot of support. Also, how to kind of take myself out of difficult corners. And that is worthwhile. And that is something that I am a bit proud about, I have to say, because I did put in the hours and the work. And as they say, it's really about practice makes perfect. It's a kind of practice that I did on myself to know how to be good to myself and as myself, to be good as myself, how to be in my good place, really be in a really good place, not fake good place, but a real good, connected, sincere place. So all this becoming more whole and holistic jabber that I gave before, well, it's because, well, I recognize that life has its own way of teaching us, and sometimes it goes through not being in our sweet place, not being in our stable place, and I just acknowledge that, and I acknowledge that there's a kind of objective to life. You can call it evolution. It is beyond my personal will to just experience a sweet life, a pleasant life. But still, I have to admit that this learning how to be in my good place, ground myself in a very good, stable place, it actually feels very close to home, and what I see my life is about, and everything I do points there. Everything I do today points there. How can I be in my good, how can I take this complex that is me to a stable, good place? And that, what I'm saying here, is very individual. It is very, very individual. No spiritual teacher should or can, well, they can try. It's a free country, a free life, but no one should tell you how that, no one can tell you how that can, what's the right steps to be in that place, to be in your good place. That is something that I feel accumulates through practice, through sincere, courageous self-exploration. If you really explore this piece of life, as Sadhguru says, he calls himself this piece of life. If you really explore this, you will know this. And if you'll know this through others' suggestions, okay? While coming into friction with others' wisdom, you get to know this. And if you know this, you'll know how to make it work better. And I keep learning, and there's a lot to learn because I have a lot of challenges in this piece of life. I do. And please believe me, I do. I really, really do. And in my family and everything. And it's a challenge every day, but I'm becoming more and more accepting of this challenge and joyful in this exploration as I go, because I see the fruit that's coming out. And no one, you can't copy paste on yourself anyone's path or conclusions or system completely as it is and expect it to work on you. I think it's rare that it works like that. And also, if it works like that, it's probably karmically ordained. I mean, those, if it does work like that, it's like this teacher and students, they are just part of their each other's karma, and they have a really, really important place in their each other's life. When it works like that, and it's ordained in advance. But if you find yourself struggling and asking, why does the teaching of this or that teacher doesn't work perfectly for me, or I'm struggling to practice it, leave it alone. Don't be hard on yourself. Do every day what worked for you yesterday. Do every day what intuitively your intuition is telling you this might work. This might work. Go after your intuition that tells you try this. This might work. And be gentle with yourself and be kind and be attentive. And listen to or look for what works today and then do that tomorrow until it doesn't work, and then change it to something else that your intuition tells you, this I feel might work now. And just go after what works. And that is why I say that my religion is whatever works. because only you can realize, only you can reveal for yourself what works in this body, mind, spirit complex. Only your experience. In that you stand totally alone. But then what's comforting is if you stand in that totally alone and totally courageous and totally honest, in time you will find the individuals, maybe like you found me in this video, I don't know, but you will find the individuals that will reflect that to you, and you will find friends that also as themselves stand alone in their own, what's called in human design system, self-authority, inner authority. They stand in their inner, true to their own experience. What is it that we say to a person that Shakespeare said, to your own self be true? Well, one of the ways to, forgot the word, but one of the meanings to that is be true to your own experience. Observe your own experience and be true. And it also can mean listen to yourself and listen to your own inner compass and listen to your intuition, which are also very, very important in this kind of self-exploration. So that's it for today. And as always, you're invited to comment below if you want. Don't don't subscribe. Take care unless you want to. And bye-bye.